I'd like you to imagine, just for a moment, that you're in a plain white room that's air conditioned better than this one, that has no windows, no doors, and you're sitting on a comfortable chair, unlike these, nice and relaxed, okay? On one wall, maybe to your left, let's say, you see a bookshelf with a huge rack of books that all look pretty much the same, but totally full, but within reach, so you're close to it. And on the other wall, you see a tiny little slot in the wall, about the size of a normal piece of paper, that is labeled in/out. Okay? Without warning, a piece of paper gets pushed through the slot and flutters down to the floor beside your chair. You pick it up, of course, you're curious, and you see that it's covered in a bunch of symbols that you don't recognize. You notice that these are Chinese characters, and you don't understand Chinese, of course. But on that same piece of paper are some instructions about the books that are sitting on your left. Those books are also filled with very small print, detailed instructions, and they are meticulously indexed. So by following the instructions that start you off on the piece of paper and looking into the books, you can match all the symbols on that piece of paper that you don't recognize to instructions in the book or books that you, as fast as you can, are pulling off the shelves. The instructions tell you exactly what to do to manipulate those symbols, and specifically what new symbols to write in response and how to format your response. You diligently follow all those instructions, looking up every character. Takes a little while. Okay? Combining them according to those rules. Once you've constructed that response, that paper that you first got also tells you just, push it back out. So you do so, and it disappears. Unbeknownst to you, because you don't even know how you got there, you just wake up suddenly in this white room with a chair. Outside the room, there are some people who do understand Chinese. They receive your responses and are absolutely convinced that there is someone or something inside that room that understands Chinese. Because all of the replies are perfectly coherent, they might even be poetic, but you know the truth. You don't understand a word of it. You are merely following this complex set of instructions. This scenario illustrates a thought experiment called the Chinese Room. It's the Chinese Room thought experiment. It was crafted by a guy named John Searle. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name exactly right because I've never heard it said out loud until now. It is a thought experiment that specifically challenges the notion that a computer or any other sort of calculating instruction following device running a program that manipulates symbols according to a set of rules can possess a mind, understanding, consciousness, self-awareness. Just as you don't understand Chinese when you're doing this, a computer, no matter how sophisticated, according to this thought experiment, also does not truly understand the information it's processing. So this leads us to something called the hard problem of consciousness. How can physical processes in our brains give rise to the subjective experiences, the qualia, that we all experience? How does mere information processing, like in that Chinese room experience, turn into that incredibly rich felt tapestry of thoughts, feelings, and awareness. These questions continue to challenge our understanding of the mind and consciousness. They highlight a profound mystery that lies at the heart of our very being. This morning, here, I would like us, the intellectually gifted here at Mensa, to explore this problem. We're gifted with quickness of thought that most people only dream of having. And as you hopefully all remember, Mensa was created as an organization to bring us together to consider the world's problems. So together, I'm going to introduce you to some of the challenges we face that are particularly poignant now with our new generative AI technology, such as ChatGPT, which I have to acknowledge helped me write this speech. Okay, so I just want to give you, just as a side note, I'm going to give a little disclaimer here. I came up with concepts, I made sure that I knew where I wanted the talk to go, but literally 80% of the actual words that are on my page were produced by ChatGPT. I am introducing a few extra things here and there, right, as we go. To better understand the problem of consciousness, I want to explore very briefly 3 prominent theories of mind. Number 1, mind is an emergent physical phenomena. 2, mind is an illusion. And 3, mind is a supernatural gift. Okay? There are other theories as well, but let's deal with those 3. Okay? So first, the theory of mind as an emergent physical phenomena. According to this view, consciousness arises basically from super complex interactions within our brains, neurons, the molecules, the atoms. There's some thinking maybe it's related to quantum activity. So just like water as a substance emerges very different from the combination of its sources, hydrogen and oxygen, consciousness in this particular model is thought to emerge from that complexity, what's going on in that head of ours. Okay? NI, natural intelligence. Okay? This perspective aligns closely with materialist philosophies. And it suggests that if only we could understand everything about the brain's physical processes, we could explain consciousness and possibly even mimic it. However, even with advanced technologies and our research so far, AI simulations, the leap from neural activity to subjective experience, we still don't have that connection. That bridge is too big still. I don't know if we'll get there, honestly. I'll say this a couple of times. I'm terrible at predicting the future. I don't know. Maybe we'll figure it out. So next, the theory of mind as an illusion. So proponents of this view argue that consciousness isn't actually what it seems. Our subjective experiences are simply tricks played on ourselves in our minds. Okay? And they create this illusion of self-awareness and intentionality, of free will. According to this perspective, what we perceive as conscious thought is just simply the byproduct of completely unconscious, uncontrollable processes. This idea is closely associated with some things that are going on in cognitive science. Of course, there's some philosophy there, particularly the work of thinkers like Daniel Dennett. This view does provide a fairly simple explanation of things, but it raises pretty profound questions about our actual felt experience and the nature of self and free will. So, again, I don't know if that's what will eventually be proven or discovered, but that's another one of those prominent theories. And then finally, let's consider the theory of mind as a supernatural gift. This perspective is basically that consciousness can't be fully explained by physical processes alone. It suggests that our minds are somehow endowed with these qualities that transcend the material world. This view is often, but not only, aligned with religious and spiritual beliefs. It posits that our consciousness maybe is a gift from some supernatural higher power of some sort or another. Might be a manifestation of an immaterial soul. This theory is comforting to many people, but it challenges, of course, empirical scientific investigation, and therefore it remains outside of our scientific ability to validate it. Each of these theories attempts to grapple with this profound mystery, the hard problem of consciousness. Each of them highlights different facets of our understanding and our ignorance. So we're going to delve into some of these things, and they're going to provide us a little bit of a framework. Okay? So I want to do a little bit of a digression. Get off the philosophy for a moment and just talk about, why do we even want AI? And by the way, when I say we, I mean, collectively, socially, societally, that sort of thing. Why do we even want AI? Lots of different reasons, of course, but again, I want to highlight 3 really powerful, compelling reasons. I'll get to the risks later. Okay? First, and this is my own kind of phrasing of this idea, we want the perfect servant. Think about what that might mean. What would the perfect servant be like? Imagine an entity that is always available, always capable, endlessly creative and resourceful, powerful, perpetually willing to assist. So this vision of AI holds the promise, one that can manage mundane tasks, as well as the not so mundane that we might not be capable of, without the human limitations that we so often experience: fatigue, heat exhaustion, uncomfortable chairs. Such an AI could transform our daily lives, our societies, and so forth. And potentially, at least, enable us to focus on more meaningful and creative endeavors. The things that we don't want to do get taken care of. We focus just on what we want to do. The second major benefit isn't about us as individuals, it's about the potential, and this is a big claim here, the potential to ensure the continuity and continued development of civilization itself. Big one. I'll say that again. AI has the potential to ensure the continuity and continued development of civilization. Throughout history, civilizations have risen and fallen. At this point, who knows what's next for us, right? Often, that is due to the inability to adapt to changing conditions, or the ability to manage increasingly complex societal structures. Potentially, AI offers a solution to this challenge of decades and centuries by providing tools for better governance, resource management, problem solving on a global scale. There's people out there who are all excited about AI helping us deal with climate change, economic inequality, global health care. And therefore, there's some hope that this will help us ensure that our civilization continues and thrives. I want to say a little bit more about this, though, because some of you might not think that's necessarily a bad thing if our civilization collapses. There's, I'm sure, some skeptics here about whether we're really in a good state or not. So I'm just going to add a little bit of editorialism here. I'm both an optimist and a realist. I acknowledge 100% humanity has gone through incredible turmoil. We've done a lot of really awful things in the past, are currently, and probably will continue to do so in the future. We've caused each other unimaginable horror and pain. There are aspects of our future that look very bleak indeed. Nevertheless, I also believe in the arc of human progress. Every decade, and at least for a little while, every century, of the recent past has shown measurable progress in almost any dimension you can imagine. Yeah, there's setbacks, but they're temporary. Fundamentally, I believe that civilization consists of three components which are all advancing. Number one, growing circles of unity in diversity that are demonstrated by empathy and changing social structures. Number two, the expansion of the store of human knowledge through exploration and experimentation. And number three, the creation of beauty in our environment through arts and crafts. I really do have a very positive outlook on where we're headed. AI is like most of our other tools. It enables and accelerates that positive arc of human progress. Of course, unfortunately, it also enables more of the horrors and human excesses and vices. Again, we'll explore that. That was second benefit. Third benefit, lastly, AI can significantly contribute to the development of all dimensions of well-being for individuals and society as a whole. From personalized healthcare, education, to advanced scientific research, environmental conservation, AI can and is helping us to make significant strides in improving our quality of life. It's not equal, but it is helping. By leveraging AI, we can develop and are developing more effective treatments for diseases, creating more engaged and tailored educational experiences, devising innovations, or helping us get faster at it. The ultimate goal of AI in this regard is to enhance that human well-being in every aspect. I've mentioned some obvious ones, but you might think of some others. And fostering a world where people are healthier, more fulfilled, happier, living in a pretty awesome way. Now, these motivations and some others, right? I haven't really talked about the business commercial side of it. Don't worry, that's there too, of course, right? But these motivations underscore the profound potential of AI to transform our world for the better. In my opinion, making it a pursuit worthy of our collective effort and careful consideration. But let's go back to that hard problem of consciousness, because it matters. Recall our three competing options: mind as an emergent physical phenomenon, mind as an illusion, and mind as a supernatural gift. Our chosen theory of mind has a profound impact on both the hopes and fears we might have regarding recent developments in artificial intelligence. I would like for a bit to focus on these fears. I don't want to be a fear monger, but we need to consider this. This is part of being at Mensa. One common fear about AI is the loss somehow of control of these intelligent machines. This fear is deeply connected to the theory of mind as an emergent physical phenomenon. We make these more and more complicated devices with programming, and somehow consciousness and independent will is going to emerge from these complex interactions. And it's conceivable, therefore, that these AI systems are on that path, and we don't know when it's going to happen. What would happen if AI became too anonymous and start making decisions that are beyond our control as individual humans or society? The fear, of course, is that such an emergent AI could act unpredictably or even harmfully without proper human oversight. Yeah, we've seen that in sci-fi a lot, right? Yeah. That's one fear. Another one, and this is more related to mind as illusion, is that AI is going to dehumanize our society and cause the erosion of meaningful human interactions. If consciousness is just purely subjective, the experiences are mere illusions created by our brain, then AI systems which simulate these processes could potentially replace human roles in social, emotional, interpersonal contexts. People fear, and by the way, there are small examples in the news about this happening. People fear that relationships and interactions will become hollow, that we will increasingly rely on machines that mimic human behavior, but lack genuine understanding and empathy. Potentially, this could lead to a society where authentic human connections are diminished, eliminated, and the richness of human experience is reduced to mere dopamine-driven interactions. The third fear is the potential ethical and moral implications of creating an AI that mirrors human consciousness. This concern is tied to the theory of mind as a supernatural gift. Are we playing God? Are we endowing these machines with something that maybe we're not supposed to? And what does that even mean, right? If consciousness is a gift that transcends the material world, then creating AI that appears conscious could be seen as an affront to the sanctity of human life. There's fears that we might blur the line between human and machine, leading to actually pretty profound moral dilemmas about the rights and treatment of AI entities. Okay. Also something explored in science fiction a lot. This perspective raises all sorts of questions about ethical boundaries and whether we're overstepping ourselves in our quest. Each of these fears underscores the significant impact that our understanding of the mind has on our perception of AI. And by the way, again, I'm not here to tell you which theory of mind you should believe, right? That's completely up to you, but which one you believe actually influences greatly what it is about AI that you either like or dislike, what you're worried about. So we're going to do a bit of an exercise together, and this is a bit of an experiment. Thank you all for being here. You're going to participate. This is where we get to use our incredible brains. Okay? So I'd like you to work in your little sort of group row. You might have to move chairs around a little bit to be able to talk with each other. Okay? And I want you to consider and discuss the question, what are all the ways that artificial intelligence could go wrong? Okay, and of course, there's going to be a lot that come to mind quickly, especially if you're a sci-fi fan. But I want you to dig just a little bit deeper, and hopefully someone will take some notes. You don't have to, but I recommend it because we're going to build on this. Again, the question, what are all the ways that artificial intelligence could go wrong? Think about current challenges that you know about, potential challenges. Also consider the truly fantastical sci-fi, disaster scenarios, right? We're going to do this in over 7 minutes. Okay, and it's going to form the foundation of what we do together next. So I'm going to set a timer. I'll give you a couple reminders as we go along. And of course, if you're bored, this is also a good time to leave. Okay, 7 minutes starting now. That was some good, vigorous discussion. Hopefully it stayed on topic. Okay, so of all the ways that artificial intelligence could go wrong, I'd love to hear a few examples of things you came up with that are really unusual or really frightening. Before we talk about solving those problems, you are smart people here, so we're going to work on that too. I just want to mention a few of my own thoughts about why we might not have that much to worry about, actually. First, the limitations of computers. I am a computer scientist, by the way. It's a long time ago. I kind of keep up. I actually, know some things. But there's some interesting unsolved problems out there about what really is possible for computers. But we already know for sure that computers are definitely constrained by power, like electricity, processing speeds, which are getting better, but consequently of those two things, they're constrained by economic constraints. Okay? It might seem that AI development is advancing at an exponential rate. But exponential growth in the real world always encounters physical limits. We don't know exactly where those are, but they exist. These constraints ensure that some sort of unchecked runaway growth is unlikely. Just as we have limits to our growth, and the physical world has boundaries, so too probably are the capabilities of artificial intelligence. Again, a little bit of speculation there. We don't know for sure what those limits are, but again, exponential growth. It just doesn't get sustained in real life. Next, we got to acknowledge that without a proven theory of mind and a clear definition of intelligence, despite our IQ tests and stuff like that, we actually, this is profound, we actually don't know if intelligence has limits. As humans, we might already be at or near some natural limit on intelligence. There's a compelling piece of evidence for this. The lack of observable alien civilizations in terms of what's actually happening in humanity and our exploration of the universe with better and better tools, right? James Webb, previously Hubble and others. I mean, we aren't seeing the evidence. Okay, now again, this is not conclusive, but it suggests that there may be natural barriers to intelligence, and that's not a very positive thing to think of. Oh, wouldn't it be amazing if we augmented our brains and eventually got super intelligent? But maybe that's just not possible. And the reason we don't know is because we don't have a clear definition of intelligence and a theory of mind. And we have some evidence that maybe there is a limit. Okay, now, third thing, and this is very practical and contemporary. Very recent research just published in April, and I'm happy to provide a link if people are interested, is showing that our current generative AI systems are bumping up against some limits. Okay, so ChatGPT, stable diffusion, and the image generation stuff. So in particular, the need for training data to make these systems is growing exponentially, and there's that problem again, right? The exponential growth thing. But also, the capability of these models is growing slower than linearly. Okay, so we've got exponential need for data and actually a logarithmic growth of capability. There's something really particular here, and I need to explain this because when I talk about the capabilities, right, there's something specific that's meant here. There's this concept called zero-shot learning. Some of you might be familiar with it. Zero-shot learning is an approach where a machine learning model, like a large language model, etc., is able to recognize and categorize and work effectively with data it has never seen before. This is different than previous types of machine learning models, which required and potentially still do extensive labeled data. A human looks at an image and writes down some keywords and tags and feeds that into a system, and it helps it learn. Okay, so imagine you have a child who has just learned to identify some various basic types of animals by looking at some pictures and hearing the names of those animals. Okay, dog, cat, horse, bird, stuff like that, right? For the first time ever, you show that child a picture of a zebra. Despite never having seen a zebra before, the child will probably correctly guess that it's an animal and probably identify it as being similar to a horse because of its shape and size. Okay? This ability to generalize from known categories to new unseen categories is similar to what we're talking about with zero-shot learning. Humans are really amazing at this. AI, struggling. Not impossible, there's some examples, but it's not so good. Okay? Because most AI models are statistical models that categorize stuff. And once it has those categories, if it's no longer learning, then it's, to some very significantly important mathematical way, stuck in those categories. There is lots of research going on about how to improve zero-shot learning, but it's not a completely solved problem. And this is an example of one of those limits that these large language models like ChatGPT are bumping up against. I think someone mentioned like developing novel new things that have never been seen before. That's actually kind of the problem, right? Like when I got ChatGPT to write this essay for me, it probably had never actually seen this particular configuration, and I had to give it a lot of guidance. Yeah, it's true, it wrote some words for me, but it would never have come up with this on its own. One more reason why I don't think we have to worry, the fourth reason. Okay? So some of you have heard of this concept of the singularity. Basically, the point where artificial intelligence surpasses human intelligence enough that it just kind of goes on its own and takes over in some way. I want to propose that actually the singularity is already happening among humans. So that's a profound concept. I believe we are witnessing unprecedented levels of unity, an incredible efflorescence of knowledge and invention, and that's driven by this boundless innate drive that humans have that sometimes shows up in really bad ways, but actually is driving that positive arc of civilization. I believe that the continuous and collaborative advancements that we're making in technology and science, in our social systems, that these things are actually propelling humanity forward at an extraordinary pace that we're not necessarily always aware of because we're in the moment. We see the bad news, right? And that this collective intelligence and innovation, the human singularity, may ensure we actually just stay ahead of AI. There's no reason to actually assume that AI is going to keep up with the pace that humans are moving forward at. We're not static. We're constantly evolving, learning, adapting, dealing with new, bigger problems, and also caring more and more about smaller problems. Our capacity is dramatically expanding. Okay, now, all that said, about why we might not have to worry, I want to say this again, I'm notoriously bad at predicting the future. Really, very, very bad at it. I learned this when I was in my early 20s. I was interviewed for a campus paper about the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait and the subsequent US counteroffensive. I'm embarrassed to say that I am on record as saying that I believe that the US would lose. Yeah, not very well. So I'm bad at it. I know this. I'm really bad at it. And at least as far as the future is concerned, you probably shouldn't pay too much attention to me. Okay. But, for that reason, I want us as Mensa sitting here to spend a few minutes on this question this problem of what if things go bad with AI? How realistically can we actually avoid the worst problems that we have just considered? It's easy to think of problems. It takes a little bit more work to think of solutions, especially if they're preventative. I'd like the, let's say, roughly 40 people in this room who are super smart to use our incredible mental capacity to start on solving this problem, the problem. Okay. So recall from earlier, there's some benefits, right? We want to keep those benefits probably. We don't want to lose the creation of a perfect servant. Okay. I'd like a perfect servant. I know I can't treat people like that though. I'd like, for whatever reason, the continuity and continued development of civilization. I'm not terribly interested in seeing its collapse, right? And of course, I'd love to see all the development in all dimensions of the well-being of individuals as well. So the problem we need to solve is how can we let science and technology develop while ensuring we avoid the worst of these problems that we just identified. Of course, we can't be naive in our deliberations. Again, I'll say it again. We don't want to be naive in our deliberations. Okay? Mere codes of laws won't prevent the lawless from doing harm. Mere technological solutions will inevitably have unexpected failure modes. And of course, depending on chance, to avoid the potential terrible outcomes isn't really a good option either. Given all the rapid advancement, what ethical frameworks or possibly governance structures could mitigate these risks while maintaining the potential benefits? Consider innovative approaches. What are some long-term strategies and contingency plans we might have? How can we build resilient human systems? How can we ensure that these AI technologies, because some of the disaster scenarios like the one dictator, for example, are somehow fair and or inclusive? And think about short-term, medium-term, and very long-term. What are some strategies that might be implemented at a global level? Again, I'm not expecting us to really solve this in the next 7 minutes, although who knows? Some of us might be smart enough to. We might. But let's have that conversation, and at the very end, I'll very quickly conclude. So, 7 minutes. Again, same groups if you want. Another opportunity to leave if you're too hot or need a bathroom break. 7 minutes. First of all, I just want to check. Did anyone solve it?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah. Let me just conclude with a final thought or two, very quickly. So, first of all, I want to connect this back to our discussion about the theory of mind. And the theory of mind actually relates at a very practical level to the benefits and risks of AI. Because without a clearly articulated, well-tested theory of mind, computer scientists are fundamentally limited in their ability to implement those characteristics of humans which are still probably exclusively ours. Self-reflection, free will and decision-making, a sense of identity, sense of community, a drive to improve and a drive to contribute, a seeking for transcendence, and perhaps most importantly, the capacity for empathy, love, generosity, justice, and deep respect for the fundamental nobility of all other human beings. These qualities cannot simply be programmed or modeled. The Chinese room thought experiment and the fact that most of us can see the distinction between understanding and rote execution of instructions gives us a very profound intuitive sense that there is something different about humans that we haven't yet figured out. Therefore, computer scientists are still, with all the advances made so far, shooting in the dark when they attempt to make computers think, have intelligence, have ethics, etc. Computers are still limited by what we can make them do. Both the benefits and potential problems of artificial intelligence are driven by human will, by the powers of the human mind. Today, we have explored the profound mystery of consciousness, examined some theories of mind, considered motivations and fears surrounding AI development. Our collective brainstorming has highlighted some pretty serious potential pitfalls and some possible solutions. With our discussions, we've just taken the tiniest steps in addressing the enormity of the challenges we face. Obviously, the work does not end here. The challenges we face are dynamic, and the pace of AI advancement still requires ongoing attention and adaptation. Therefore, as I mentioned earlier, I would like to extend an invitation to continue this discussion. I'm hoping that by coming together, we can leverage our collective intelligence, creativity, expertise even, and make a meaningful impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, there we go. We're done.